Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the live radar, run for the latest from the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we are going to see high pressure trying to push in over the next 48 hours or so, but it's going to actually keep a lot of trap cloud and areas of light rain further northwards. So yes, high pressure is building in, but unfortunately it's not going to be anywhere near as dry as we thought even only a few days ago. But as we head into next week, things are really starting to get interesting. As we'll see from the latest 12 o'clock runs, things could be turning cold and potentially wintry as we lead up towards Christmas, perhaps even over the Christmas period. Now, I say only the lead up to Christmas at this stage because the actual Christmas period is still too far away to say with any certainty, but a lot of the runs now are consolidating on the risk of that big lobe of tropospheric polar vortex dropping out of the Arctic towards Scandinavia and encouraging flows from the northwest and from the north for the UK. Now, not all runs are showing it, not all ensemble members are showing it, but it is increasing by the day. As we'll see today, both the GFS and the ECMWF have an almost direct northerly as we head towards the days leading up towards Christmas. Even the GFS actually has the risk of snow over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. The GM does show colder patterns, but it's nowhere near as direct. So it is looking very interesting, and we are going to continue to have a look at it in the second half of the video. But if you are looking for a cold, wintry period as we head towards Christmas, potentially even a white Christmas, things are looking more and more encouraging the closer we do get to the period. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see that it is reasonably dry at the moment, so we are seeing high pressure starting to push in from the southwest. But you can see still some showers in the east, as the area of low pressure that gave us lots of heavy showers and thunderstorms yesterday has now crossed into Europe. It's got a bit of a slack easterly on its back edge, and it's allowing colder air in, but also a few of these showers. Out to the west, you can see a weather front that's got warm air behind it, trying to push in, and it's going to bring a lot of doom and gloom, lots of cloud and light to moderate rain for those northern and western areas. It's going to be a bit of a mess the next sort of 3 or 4 days as the high pressure does move around, because as I said, it's not a sort of a clear-cut area of high pressure. We're kind of under the high in the south, but further northwards, we've got weather fronts approaching, and as I said, it's going to be very messy. With, yes, generally temperatures average to above average, but as I said, a lot of cloud and areas of rain. Now, overnight tonight, as I said, we have got that slack easterly moving in. So actually temperatures where it is sheltered, we've got lighter winds and clearer skies in the north and the west, things could get reasonably frosty tonight. That is east of the weather front, though. You can see out towards Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, those western edges are actually really quite mild, with that wind coming in from the mid-Atlantic round the higher pressure, coming all the way down from the Azores. But as I said, in between the cloud in the southeast and the cloud further westwards with that big weather front, cold night tonight as those upper air temperatures are pretty chilly, but it's not going to last all too long, and that milder air is going to sweep in for all over the next 24 hours or so. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see that rainfall moving in from the west at the moment. It will progress through all areas overnight tonight into tomorrow, and it will generally give milder conditions. Now, initially, you can see there is quite a lot of sunshine around through tomorrow afternoon in those northern and western areas. It's actually going to be a pretty pleasant day. For many southern areas and even central areas, pretty much apart from the west of Scotland, it's going to be pretty bone dry as the high pressure builds in. But as we progress through Thursday into Friday, you can see thicker cloud builds back in, and we do start to see a few more showers into Friday, and perhaps even a weather front. And this is because the high pressure moves in, but it doesn't fully dominate, allowing areas of low pressure and weather fronts to ride over the top of it and give rain for Scotland. So Friday, it does look like a generally pretty dry day for most areas, but it's going to be really quite cloudy and dark and gloomy. It's going to be pretty miserable out there, being in around the shorter days of the year. Yeah, it's going to feel a pretty horrible day. Beyond that, as we head into Saturday, more cloud moving in from the west and even some heavier rain. It's going to be similar to Friday. Could just about see a few cloud breaks in the south, but another pretty gloomy day. It's the high pressure not bringing any sunshine. And yes, bringing dry weather for some, but you can see here weather fronts moving in. As we progress through Sunday into Monday, the high pressure actually starts to lose out to lower pressure. As you can see, the weather front moving in, and it does eventually, as we head into Monday and Tuesday, allow cooler, fresher North Atlantic air to move in and much more unsettled conditions. You can see this from the mean sea level pressure. The high pressure is to our southeast, and it is just getting pushed away, and you can see more of a flat westerly compared to more of a southwesterly that we had through Friday, with that high pressure nudging into the south, getting pushed with the wind veering more to a northwesterly or westerly come Monday. And that is going to continue to shift towards the latter part of next working week, and around a week to 10 days time, when we could start to see a flood of Arctic air heading not only towards the UK, but towards Northern Europe in general. Could be a pretty widespread cold and unsettled spell in the lead up to Christmas. Just not just locally for, as I said, the British Isles is going to be for much of Northern Europe, is what is looking likely at this stage. Now, if we do have a look at the max temperatures over the next 5 days, you can see through this evening we've got about a bit of a frost ascent in the west, but nothing too crazy, and temperatures will actually climb by the mid-morning as we do see that cloud move in. Still could be generally chilly around only 6 to 8 degrees in many areas tomorrow, so generally around average. And then as we progress into Friday, again could be a bit of a frost in the far south, but most on Friday, again 6 to 8 degrees, but much milder from the west, as we do see warmer Atlantic air moving in. For Saturday, as I said, it's going to be another doom and gloomy day, but look at the temperatures well above average, 10 to 12 degrees, and that is likely to continue into Sunday, where again temperatures in the mid-early morning 8 or 9 degrees, and by the afternoon could get up to 10 to 12 degrees, maybe even a 13 or 14 somewhere out across the Republic of Ireland. And then as we head into Monday, things should start to turn cooler. Still very mild in the southeast by Monday, 13, 14 degrees, but you can see out to the northwest, much fresher air is moving in. So by Tuesday, I do expect us to be back close to average again, and then heading back perhaps below average, as I said, in the lead up to Christmas. So if we do have a look at those longer term runs now to see what is going to be happening as we progress towards Christmas, you can see the high pressure building over the next couple of days, but it really isn't dominating anywhere near as much as we thought a few days ago. The westerly flow is going to win back by Monday and Tuesday, with lower pressure moving in. Now, other runs actually have a larger area of low pressure moving here by Tuesday. GFS still keeps high pressure around, which would be good for keeping it slightly drier, but other runs actually have a much more active area of low pressure and fresher air moving in faster. So we'll have to see that nearer the time. But GFS is a little bit of an outlier when it comes to the breakdown next Tuesday. But what we are seeing is, as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday, look at these dark purples heading out of Greenland and the Arctic and heading towards Scandinavia and Northern Europe. And what this is a lobe of the tropospheric polar vortex. Very cold air developed within it. Of course, the air is going to warm up as it heads towards a generally a warmer area. If it's not sat over the Arctic, it of course is going to lose some of its intense cold. But while it does that, it is going to deposit very unsettled and potentially very cold conditions to much of Northern Europe. And look into the days leading up towards Christmas, a straight northerly wind, cold and extremely wintry in places. Again, I say in places because it is going to be marginal. The air is taking a very long sea track, so towards the surface, it may take a little bit of a time, especially for low-lying areas, to see cold air penetrate right to the surface. But it is incredibly unsettled, so there's going to be a lot of precipitation around, lots of showers, lots of disturbances, and very strong north or northwesterly winds. As we progress towards the actual Christmas day, you can see the westerly flow actually wins out. Again, this is not going to be a sustained, properly blocked cold spell. As you can see, the high pressure never quite gets towards Greenland or Iceland. So it is a colder period, maybe 3, 4, 5 days, but at this stage, not a prolonged cold spell. For eventually, as I said, the westerlies break through for Boxing Day, and it does turn milder again. But GFS is showing something even more interesting as we head towards Christmas to the new year. It actually does start to build that high pressure towards Greenland. Look at that. We've started to see a weak area of high pressure at this stage, but it is strengthening. We are starting to see perhaps northerly winds starting to emerge. And because the tropospheric polar vortex got pushed towards Scandinavia and towards northern Europe, there's a lot of cold air to tap into. At 384 hours, you can see there is a big area of blue here. Again, for Scandinavia, it's only 4 to 6 degrees below average. But if that air moved towards the UK, it would be 10 to 12 degrees below average. So a big cold pool to our north to potentially tap into as we progress towards a new year. So a very interesting GFS run. And again, it's not just one GFS run. We've seen this numerous times over the last couple of days. So it again does improve sort of the chances of this pattern coming off. Now, if you run back to sort of the middle of next week where the cold air starts to move in, you'll be able to see that the -5 line gets in quite comfortably by the 21st, so in around 7 or 8 days' time. But you can see it does struggle to push southwards because it's going across such a long sea track. Because see, the width of the cold air is insane. It's a huge area of cold weather. And you can see generally as we progress towards Christmas period, it gets even more intensely cold before eventually getting swept away through Christmas Day, actually towards Boxing Day, before eventually, right as I said, at the end of the run, potentially developing colder air once again as we head towards the new year. Incredibly interesting run once again today. And we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this pattern as we are starting to see some consistency with other models. Now, the GEM has over course this autumn and winter so far, has traditionally been a pretty pessimistic run whenever we have looked at colder patterns. It was very pessimistic of the cold spell in November, but it did actually come off the cold spell. So again, we have to take that with a grain of salt. But the GM continues to show a westerly flow to next week. Much more active area of low pressure there on Tuesday than the GFS had. But as we head towards the days leading up towards Christmas, we see a similar pattern to the GFS. Tropospheric polar vortex moving out of the Arctic towards Scandinavia. We actually see a very strong northwesterly wind here. Now, instead of the GFS where the high pressure does get towards the northeast Greenland, it doesn't quite make it, and we start to see an area of low pressure develop along the jet stream, which would move in milder air for probably about Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So we do see cold weather come in, we do see the -5 line move in, but it probably will only last about 48 to 72 hours max. So it would be a cold blast, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as sustained as the GFS, where it has sort of 3, 4, 5 days of pretty intense cold. So GM, as I said, a little bit more pessimistic, but nevertheless still showing a pretty cold blast of air moving through around that 21st to 23rd of December period. We just have to keep a close eye on that blocking area of high pressure and how far northwards it gets. Again, it's not likely to turn into a proper northern blocking feature. We're not really seeing that at this stage, at least in the next 10 days. But how far northwards it gets will decide how long that cold air is flooding towards the UK. Now, if you look at the ECMWF, which is just updated, and again, what we need when we're looking at these sort of scenarios is cross-model consensus, and the ECMWF is on board with a real strong northerly wind as we head into next week. Now, you can see westerly flow continuing into next week, or early part of next week, and that's what we were expecting. That's what we're seeing from the other runs. But as we head towards next Wednesday, we see that northwesterly winds start to arrive, and then the tropospheric polar vortex exits out of Greenland by next Thursday, and then we start to see that very strong northerly or northwesterly wind. And at day 10, it's actually a direct northerly wind coming straight from Svalbard and the Arctic. And you can see, yes, there is a low pressure waiting in the wings out in the Atlantic, but that would probably take another couple of days to make its way towards us. So here would actually be very similar to the GFS, where it is cold for probably 3 to 5 days once again. If we look at those upper air temperatures, it is very cold underneath that widespread -5 line, and you can see it is well below average. So again, incredibly interesting to see that from the ECMWF. It is, as I said, cross-model consensus, and that's the most important thing at this stage. Again, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen, because as we'll see on the ensembles now, there is still quite a lot of spread. But there is definitely trending, more runs trending towards that colder end. Now, The reason why I said it's most likely going to be a colder spell and not sort of a locked in cold, bitterly cold pattern is because we're not getting that blocking to the north. And the reason why we know it's unlikely we're going to see that blocking to the north is simply because if you look at the ensembles, you look at just the 800 VHP temperatures by themselves, we're not seeing many runs get below about -7 or -8. If we saw a proper intense northern blocking feature over Greenland, you'd expect at least to see a few runs getting down to -10 region. So the fact that we're not seeing that basically rules out the chances of a proper sustained block, but you can see there are plenty of runs that get down to that sort of -5 to -8 region, which is cold enough to see some wintriness, especially for northern areas over hills, but you can't even rule out to low-lying areas as well, depending on the synoptic pattern. As I said though, earlier in the run, GFS is a bit of an outlier here as we head towards next Tuesday, Wednesday time, as it is actually pretty mild where most runs have a fresher air mass moving in. So again, there is still a lot of uncertainty, but definitely seeing trends towards that colder and potentially wintry spell of weather as we lead up towards Christmas time. Humidity temperatures definitely dropping as well, quite a few runs down towards the mid to low single digits towards the Christmas period, but again at this stage still a lot of scatter. And if we do have a look at the dew points, again dropping quite considerably as we head towards Christmas, again giving the indication that pretty cold air is going to be heading our way. And finally, if we look at the ECMWF ensembles, again the 12 o'clock run is literally just updating, so unfortunately we'll have to look at the midnight run. Again, ECMWF ensembles are pretty pessimistic. Definitely have trended colder since since we did our update yesterday, but still nowhere near as bullish as the GFS is. So we just have to keep a very close eye on it. But we're definitely seeing at least the operational runs being pretty consistent now with this sort of dropping of that stratospheric polar vortex into northern Europe and giving colder air heading our way. We'll just have to see more ensemble support over the next couple of days. So it is looking incredibly interesting as we head towards the Christmas period. Again, there's no proper locked-in cold spells, no guaranteed of widespread snow or anything like that. But it definitely is looking pretty cold and relatively wintry for some areas, especially northern areas would do very well out of that very cold northerly flow we saw from both the ECMWF and the GFS. So we will have to see exactly how it does play out. But as I said, if you're looking for a white Christmas, this year is looking pretty much the most encouraging I've seen it in quite a while. So we'll have to keep, as I said, a very close eye on the latest runs. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.